comic books are an important contributing factor in many cases of juvenile.
Up in the sky!
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Holy, here we go again.
Hello and welcome to These Guys Have Issues, the podcast where we discuss current topics and issues within the comic book or geek community. My name is Carter Hutchison.
I'm your co-host, Mike Thomas.
And Mike, I'm a little excited about
I know
today's
you are.
episode, if you couldn't
I
tell.
had to pause. I apologize.
Right. Today we are discussing Indiana Jones. Kind of just honestly, just kind of out of the blue. There's a lot of stuff going on this month regardless, so we kind of just thought we'd do a fun little kind of side tangent show before we are super busy with Shazam and Avengers and
Hellboy comes out.
Hellboy, yeah. The slate is full coming up. So today our subject is what to do with Indiana Jones.
I can't see what I'm doing with my fingers, but I'm maniacally smiling.
Excellent. Because I feel like a lot of people, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, were just like, oh, Disney bought Star Wars, and just moved right along. But there are some other properties that Lucasfilm has a hold of, and the main one of those, besides Star Wars, is Indiana Jones. So, first, Mike, what's your background with Indiana Jones? You familiar with the character?
Yeah,
and
I've mentioned this many times. My dad has kind of got me into like the sci-fi nerdy stuff. Growing up as a kid, we watched Star Trek. We watched sci-fi things, Battlestar Galactica. He loved Indiana Jones movies because he liked the historical aspect of it too, but also liked the fact that it was like a adventure.
Totally.
So I've seen all the movies about 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I can't say I've seen Kingdom of Crystal Skull 1,000 times.
No, me neither. I don't think anyone really needs to see that movie 1,000 times. Once is
I've seen
almost too much.
Yeah, but I've never gone like full like geek fandom into it. I think there is a picture of me somewhere when I was a kid where I dressed up like Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah.
okay. I think that Raiders of the Lost Ark is the movie I've seen the most in my life, as far as like just the most amount of times.
Wow.
I have seen that movie a lot.
Dang, dude.
Like a lot. And I actually wasn't even thinking of this, but funny you reminded me. When I was a kid, I had the Indiana Jones hat that I got from the Star Wars magazine that would come out at that time. I was in like the Star Wars fan club and everything. Yeah. This is around 1999.
I was in the Britney Spears fan club, so I didn't. Can you edit that part out?
I hope you're kidding. And if so, that's something you don't tell anybody else.
I'm really not kidding, though.
Oh, boy. All right, let me collect myself here for a second.
Sorry, comic book community.
Boy, I completely... Oh, yeah, okay. Star Wars fan club. Let's reel it back in here already. And, yeah, I bought the hat from it. It was, like, officially licensed. And my mom and I went on a trip, just the two of us. It was, like, a random adventure trip. And we just kind of drove down to the beach. And I wore that hat the whole time. And everybody was calling me Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute, little Carter.
As adulthood, though, my last paper that I wrote in college was a 12-page paper on colonialism in Indiana Jones and Tintin.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 whole pages of that.
Nice.
Because if you think about it, they're basically these like white adventure characters that show up in a third world country and act like the laws don't apply to them, make a mess, usually steal part of their culture, and then leave.
Yeah, pretty much.
That being said, I love these characters.
Oh my gosh. You colonialist.
Especially Indy kind of, it's hard to take him out of that time, I feel like. You couldn't do like Indiana Jones in a modern context. It's called The Librarian.
I'll get to that later.
Okay. So yeah, I love these movies, and this is a debate my wife and I have had a lot on where to go from here with Indiana Jones. Yeah. So before we break into our own little ideas here, how many do you have? Like different ideas, or
I had a couple.
Okay.
I didn't rewatch any of the movies, but like, I just
have
some stuff.
Three serious ones, and then one just kind of like
tinfoil.
You could kind of do
Just kidding.
it. No, but
I mean, I can kind of do it with like a camera and YouTube.
yes,
Oh, okay. Indiana Jones
actually,
goes
yes, but not a camera.
to-
We'll get there.
Oh. Ah.
Stay tuned. Oh, okay. Before we get into the main me of the podcast too, do you know how Indiana Jones came about, even as a
I have
concept?
no clue, man.
Okay, you're gonna like this.
Nice.
So it's the late 70s. We're on a beach in Hawaii. And this guy, you may have heard of him. This guy named George Lucas just made a little movie called Star Wars. And it made a lot of money. So him and his good buddy, Steven Spielberg, went to Hawaii. And they're sitting on the beach, and they're kind of talking about different movies and stuff that they would want to make. And Spielberg would have died to make a Bond movie. He really, really wanted to make a Bond movie this time. But Spielberg is an American director, and I don't think any American director has ever directed a Bond movie.
You would
So
know.
yeah, yeah. So it's pretty much unheard of, right? And plus, like, he had really just kind of made Jaws at the time, and like
Yeah.
1941, which was a big flop for Spielberg. Have you even heard of that movie?
No.
It's like Nazis invade like San Francisco or something, and it's real like slapstick, and like Dan Aykroyd is in it. And I think like
What?
yeah, it's kind of decent in like a what happened here kind of, because it should have been a big
An
movie.
Ellsworth story.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah, it should have been a big movie.
Huh.
But it just it flopped for whatever reason. So he really wanted to make a Bond movie, but couldn't get in with the Broccoli's, basically the family that's been making the Bond movies since the beginning. So his buddy George Lucas starts talking to him about this idea for a character he had that is based off the 1930s serials and cliffhangers. You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Like comic strip through on the back boxes.
No, this is before movies again.
Boxes.
Kind of like Nickelodeon's. You know what Nickelodeon is? A Nickelodeon was like a little box that you would look through, and there would be like a little picture show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about.
The cliffhangers were the first really like form of serialized entertainment, and they would play them before movies, a lot like the Max Fleischer cartoon that we
gotcha.
watched for Classic
Yeah.
Cartoon Rewind. And they would always end with sometimes literally the person hanging from a cliff. Like, is this the end? Come back next time. Like that kind of, to be continued, the end question mark. That's all starts with
movie voice.
serials. Thank you. Imagine a world hanging from cliffs. So yeah, he
Nice.
wanted to base it off of those, and it just kind of snowballed. Spielberg and Lucas and this guy named Lawrence Kasdan basically sat in a room and just went back and forth with how to create Indiana Jones. And there's actually a transcript of that conversation that is fascinating. If you're ever wondering, like, if you're a writer yourself and you want to like inside glimpse into world building, or like how do you set up characters like this that something happens really like Indiana Jones doesn't really have an emotional arc through his movies,
No.
right? It's like you need to find this thing. The movie is him trying to find the thing, and that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
It's called a MacGuffin. You ever heard that term before? A MacGuffin is a prop or an item in a movie, or I guess really anything that sparks the plot. So like for Avengers, it's the Tesseract, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what they all have to get.
Yeah.
It's the Lost Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So that bit of knowledge of knowing where the inspiration for Indiana Jones comes from is important going forward, I think. So before we kind of break into each of our own little ones here, we're going to have a quick message from our Patreon. All of Grassroots Comics is funded through our Patreon, patreon.com/grassrootscomics. For as little as $1 a month, you can become part of the Grassroots Comics community, which includes many perks, such as having your name mentioned in this segment of every episode of the podcast, the ability to suggest topics of discussion for shows like These Guys Have Issues, access to the private Grassroots Comics subreddit where members can continue discussions started on the podcast or start their own, behind-the-scenes access to the GRC studio, and early access to digitally released comics and Classic Cartoon Rewind. So it is the goal of all of us here at Grassroots Comics Productions that one day the Patreon is strong enough where we are able to produce the stories, artwork, and stop-motion animation shorts pitched and selected by the Grassroots Comics community. But the only way that becomes possible is with a strong Patreon. So if you feel that the entertainment value you receive from this podcast is at least worth 25 cents, then please become a Patreon contributor today, and with our powers combined, we can have all of our stories heard. All right, now let's get on with the rest of the show. Okay, we're back, and I do just want to add one quick note to the Patreon. This current month, April, we are starting a new feature for Patreon members that we're calling back issue bundles. So basically, every month we're going to have a bundle of back issues that is themed to certain stuff happening that month. So it's 4 comics. This month is Shazam and Avengers themed. So if you are a Patreon member, which again you can be for as little as $1 a month, every month then you are entered into this raffle to win our back issue bundle. So go ahead and get in now while there's a small number of Patreons, and you have a great chance of winning that back issue bundle.
It's pretty cool.
Can I say back issue bundle one more time?
Back issue bundle.
Back issue bundle.
Back issue bundle.
Back issue bundle.
Back
BIB.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. GRC with BIB.
Oh, right.
Well, TTYL.
Oh.
Okay. Do you want to start us off here?
Yeah.
You want to give us your first?
So when we first, you were just like, hey, we're going to talk about this, because I was like, yeah, it kind of feels. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on this month.
There is.
This is kind of just a breakup of the norm. Carter's a big fan of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
As a kid, I enjoyed the movies. It was something that me and my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
We watched a lot of movies together. Anytime this movie came on, we always watched it. So
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have a favorite of the original trilogy?
What's the one with?
Connery?
Yes.
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade. Yeah, I like Last Crusade.
That was my favorite as a kid.
I think because, like I said, I liked it. I like watching these movies with my dad, so it was like father son.
Oh, that's
So it was
perfect.
yeah, exactly.
That's perfect.
So, except for the part where the guy gets his head sawed off by the plane.
The penitent man. The penitent man. Neil! I love that scene.
It's like the best part in the whole movie.
Him going through the trials.
Yeah.
Right.
But the first thing that came to my mind was like, do we do Harrison Ford? And I know this. Some of my stuff will kind of.
That's kind of the main question.
Yeah. Some of mine will kind of tie into what yours.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of like, if I say something that's yours, just go ahead and chime in with it. So
Okay.
The first thing would be, what do we do with Harrison Ford? Does he still be Indiana Jones, or do we have someone that's younger, or do we put it on an aspect of like, a lot of times when we get adventure movies, we get like father-son aspect of it. Like even with National Treasure, Nicolas Cage's father plays a big role in all the movies.
Right.
So I feel that Harrison Ford could still be Indy.
Yes.
And he could
And
be
you
in
pass
the
the
movie.
torch
and
to
you just
somebody else.
Yeah, but it's not Shia LaBeouf.
No.
We can just go ahead and get that.
No, I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
So and we should be clear here, there is an Indiana Jones 5 on the books.
Okay.
Like, it has been announced. It was originally 2019. Well, guess the fuck what? That's not happening. And then it got pushed back to 2020, and then it got pushed back to 2021. So, like, God knows if we'll ever actually see this movie. But it's Spielberg, and it's Lucas with the story, and it's Harrison Ford as Indy. Is all that's there right now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like you could get, because Harrison Ford, when he first did the first movie, I feel like he was like in his 30s.
Yes.
And you have to get somebody. You could even do it even younger if you wanted to. You could do a whole like what's the Golden Circle movie, Kingsman, Kingsman movie. You can kind of do it like that, where you're paired more with a younger star, and you have an older figure, and it kind of just raises him.
Just like Last Crusade.
Yeah, you could just do a lot more movies that way too. And then of course Harrison Ford would probably be on more.
So
of that.
make them like buddy cop movies? Is that kind of what you're?
Not necessarily like
almost Lethal Weapon or something.
Like you were saying how Spielberg really want to make a Bond movie,
right?
This could be almost the aspect of an American Bond. Like, Harrison Ford's character, he's the true Indy, but he finds all these things, but he can't do them anymore.
Right.
So he's like, I really want I want my son, or I want this estranged kid that I found that works in the library,
right,
to be the next, adventurer.
Yeah.
I should say, because what we get with Indiana Jones is this is a true adventure movie.
Absolutely.
Like every movie he's on is an
It's
adventure,
just pure
it's a quest.
action adventure.
And a lot of Hollywood movies now aren't necessarily quests. Like, there's aspects of quest in them.
I think that the closest is probably the Marvel movies. Like,
yeah,
they're serialized, and there's usually like a shiny thing in space that you need to go get.
except for Captain America, Winter Soldier, but
that's still the Tesseract.
Winter
not Winter Soldier. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, no, I was just thinking the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you cast a younger person?
Yeah,
in
you
the
have to
action
cast.
role is your point.
Yeah,
right.
Because then, like, you could like in some of the fight scenes, you don't want Harrison Ford going out there and throwing punches.
Right.
You're like,
It was barely believable in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Exactly, and that was
it's
2007.
It's only going to be worse. Yeah. Okay. So to kind of to piggyback off of that, I think you're right that if you're going live action movies, there's two ways you can kind of go about it. Either one, you recast Indy. How do you feel about that in general? Like, is it no one else can play this role but Harrison Ford? And
I always feel like that Indiana Jones could be like a Bond.
it could and it should, because that's what it is based off of, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I feel like that Harrison Ford is iconic for that character.
Yes, but so was Sean Connery until Roger Moore did his thing.
Yeah, but I mean, you knew that Sean Connery couldn't carry the torch forever. To me, Indiana Jones starts out.
I think that's a little hindsight 2020. It's not like they in 1962 when the Bond movies began knew that there were going to be 25 something movies later.
Yeah,
in the span of talking motion pictures, there's been more time where James Bond was there than not. Yeah. And I don't think anyone could have predicted that with a $1 million Dr. No beach budget movie.
No, but Harrison Ford though is he's just this character.
Yes.
He's Han Solo.
I agree.
He is the president. He
wants you to get off his plane.
The hell off his plane. He is Indiana Jones. I mean, he's got iconic characters that's never, nobody can play these other roles unless it's a movie where it tells younger. What if we got a really young Indiana Jones?
Did you ever see that series? They made a live action TV show in the 90s.
Did?
Yeah, with Sean Patrick Flannery was young Indiana Jones. It's parts of it are good. Some episodes they have two different guys playing Indy. One's like a kid. One's 9 or 10 or something. And then the other one is a more teenage Indy.
So almost like a Tintin-esque.
Yeah, very much so. He's with his dad, who's an archaeologist, and there's one where he gets a fever and stuff, in the Egyptian tombs.
He becomes the pharaoh.
Exactly. Nailed it. How'd you guess? And he gets in World War I, and he fights with Pancho Villa or something. And,
what?
Yeah.
Hidalgo?
No.
I'm sorry. Everyone's gonna start hating me now. They're just gonna be typing comments. What is Mike even talking about now? He's just
so yeah, they did that. But I do think you're right that there is more space to work there. That's a good idea. And I really love that time period. World War I is my favorite war to learn about.
World War II's mine.
Really?
Yeah.
And this is a complete tangent here, but what I like about World War I, it is this odd juxtaposition of new technology and old world fighting styles. So you have machine guns and mustard gas and stuff, and then there's a dude on horseback with a sword.
With a sword,
right?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
You know what's funny though?
It's such a bar fight of a war. There's nothing really.
Still in World War II, you had that Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
And they were fighting in kind of in the African theater.
Mm-hmm.
You had horseback cavalry coming in there with swords. Where people are just getting.
It's weird. Yeah. Anywho, so yeah, there was something like that. Now, on your idea of keep moving the timeline forward, Indy is older, and there is a younger person in the action role.
Yeah.
So that's one of my ideas, is basically to flip Last Crusade, right? Because in that, Indiana Jones is the action character, and Sean Connery is the wise fatherly figure. Yeah. Which, now that you know that background about Spielberg wanting to make a Bond movie first, how great is it to have the first Bond to be literally the father of Indiana Jones?
That's perfect.
Mwah. So good.
Keep it down over there.
No, never. I'm surprised it's not hitting the table.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. It's not big enough to hit the table.
There it is. Somebody had to. I was in the pool. Okay. So my idea with that is for Crystal Skull, I will say that movie's not all bad. There are a few things I do like about it, and one thing I liked about it was that the time that that had elapsed between the last movie and Crystal Skull was the same amount of time that passed in
real life.
The timeline of the movie. So it's Indiana Jones in the 50s. So I would probably take it forward a little bit to either late 50s or early 60s. And I would want to deal with some Vietnam or Korea issues. I think that's an interesting place to put Indy in that time.
Yeah.
And it also is a perfect chance to bring back, this is who my action role character would be, is a adult Short Round. So if you don't know, Short Round is the little Asian kid in Temple of Doom, who I just adore.
It's a Jones.
I am very small. You cheat very big. he cracks me up, man. I love.
So funny note, real
Short
quick. When I first started working in the emergency room at the hospital, there's Dr. Jones.
Really?
And so I'd be like, Dr. Jones. And he'd be like, "What, Mike?"
That's
right. Like, Dr. Jones, patient. Dr. Jones, patient.
I'm sure that didn't get annoying.
Oh no, it didn't.
First
I did it maybe probably a week, and then he was like, "All right, you're gonna stop that."
That's excellent.
Okay,
That's
Dr. Jones.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Whatever you say.
But yeah, no, I bring back an adult Short Round, set it in some Cambodia, Laos, somewhere in there. You could even do it kind of like
Rambo.
No,
I feel like Rambo. I think it's cool how you take
Apocalypse Now. You could kind of do it like Apocalypse Now, where in Apocalypse Now is this assassin is going through Vietnam to find a rogue colonel, right? So the colonel is the MacGuffin. In this, Indy himself could be the MacGuffin, and Short Round is trying to find Indy, who's been lost in some Vietnam.
Okay,
Laos
I like
temple,
that.
Right?
Dang, man.
They kind of did the same thing with The Force Awakens. I've seen an interview with JJ, and he's talking about what was going to be the MacGuffin for that movie. And at first it was Darth Vader's lightsaber and part of the mask and stuff. And then they were like, no, why not? Why not Luke be the MacGuffin? So just kind of steal that and have Indy be the MacGuffin. That's one way I think you could do it, and that would be interesting.
I think you would get with Aladdin coming out, you're trying to get that clientele of the world. Representation.
Sure.
Bollywood's a big thing.
Yes.
So if you start doing that with Crazy Rich Asians was a movie just about Asian people and getting married. So
think of what the movie that would make in China as well.
Oh yeah,
that's the biggest overseas market
in Asia. Mm-hmm. Just having
I didn't even think of that perspective.
Yeah, but just having a lead Asian just be this big blockbuster role movie.
Totally.
It's just
in my head, I've always seen the guy who was Glenn in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah,
playing an adult Short Round.
What about?
It's funny if you're going to say the name I was about to say, because he was in the news this past week.
Yeah, because he's going to be...
Michael Cho.
Yes.
Yeah, I was kind of going through it, and I was like, oh, Michael Cho would do a good Short Round. And then they're like, hey, Michael Cho's going to be in Cowboy... He's going to be Spike in Cowboy Bebop.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, that's a great choice. I'm excited about that movie.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Do you have any, little details on... That's even perfect.
Yeah. Glenn is Korean.
Yeah.
Or whatever his name is.
Glenn from...
Walking
from Walking Dead. Our producer Hubie just messaged us that so the actual actor is Korean. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
I'll let you say your thing because I'm just about to take it down a whole notch.
Well, that was mine as far as if you're going to just if Indy's going to be the older character. Now I have a way to recast. Do you want to hear that one first? Or you want to do your thing?
No, you do your thing because I'm going to shit on everything that you just said in a second.
Great.
So.
Okay, so. Recasting Indiana Jones is going to be difficult, especially if Harrison Ford is still alive. Which I hope he is. You know what I mean? I hope he's not crashing planes into any golf courses anytime soon.
I'm surprised that he survived that.
Yeah, I know.
No?
I mean,
he's president.
Obviously he survived it.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying, damn.
Yeah. He's a beast.
He's a beast. And he's 72 years old.
He's still doing his stunts and stuff. He broke his leg on the set of the last Star Wars movie.
He did?
On Force Awakens, I thought, yeah, they had to like delay some shooting and stuff.
You know, he committed suicide.
What are you talking about? Oh, God, dude, I'm not getting into this. Okay. So how you recast? The way I would do it, because, again, if you recast Indiana Jones while Harrison Ford is alive, you're going to have public uproar with, and this is the debate that my wife and I always have, is should you recast and keep making it, or do you just, like, leave well enough alone? She wants to leave well enough alone. My thought process is, like, Crystal Skull's not that good, right?
No, it's not.
It does not change how I see any of the original three.
No.
Those will always still be there and be just as good as they still are.
Yeah, they age well too. Like that's
they do. They only get better.
The fact that like you keep the same character,
wonderful,
but still like they don't have to tie off anything.
No, there's just individual stories.
Yeah.
And most people don't even know this, but did you know that Temple of Doom is a prequel to Raiders?
No.
Technically, it happens first, but see, it doesn't even really
matter,
right?
No, it doesn't matter,
right? It's just set in close to the same time period.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So how I would do it is in the live-action Young Indiana Jones TV show that we were talking about. Some of those episodes would start with old Indy, like in like a wheelchair, and I think he had like an eye patch or something, and like just old, and he's telling you a story of his life, like once when I was a kid, blah blah blah. So I would kind of do something like that. It wouldn't be Harrison Ford straight up talking to the camera.
Oh, dude, not straight talking to the camera, but what if Harrison Ford was narrating?
No, that's
plot.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
So you start on Harrison Ford, old Indiana Jones, and half the movie is intercut between old Indiana Jones and young Indiana Jones.
Okay.
And whatever is happening to old Indiana Jones ties into something that happened in his past. And so he has flashbacks and is probably like narrating over it.
Yeah, yes.
And that's where you recast.
Okay.
You like kind of sneak in a recast, and then the next movie you just set it back in the 30s, and it's just the guy who you recast as young Indiana Jones.
Okay.
So my first choice is probably like Chris Pratt.
Okay.
I think to be Indiana Jones, you have to look like you can take a punch, because that's one of my favorite things about Indy is he gets the shit beat out of him in all of his movies and just always gets back up, right?
Yeah.
He'll look like hell at the end of the movie, but
and Chris Pratt could pull a little quirkiness.
He can do that.
Yeah.
He can also pull off the humor of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
You need to be able to kind of like question if this guy actually knows what he's doing, or like if he's just making this up as he goes along.
Yeah.
And like I think Chris Pratt can kind of pull that off.
Yeah, I just feel like if they were to say, "Hey, Chris, we want you to take on this new mantle," and this is a practicality thing, he'd be like, "I would love to, but I've got Jurassic Park."
He's talked about it before.
Really?
Mm-hmm, he's all for it. Yeah. Okay. Title. It's like being Bond.
I mean, what's more iconic?
Bond is more iconic.
Yeah.
100%. But 24 movies to 4.
Yeah.
Scoreboard.
And people are going to recognize him more from being in Guardians of the Galaxy than anything else. And then
but I mean, that character is basically just Space Indiana Jones. At the beginning of Guardians, you see him raiding a temple, going after a little shiny object in the middle, right?
You're right. I didn't even think about that.
So he would be a choice. And you could go this way, and it might be a better choice because then you don't have to stick with actors who just look kind of like Harrison Ford. I think Ryan Gosling is a really underrated character and could totally pull off something like this.
I know why you're doing that. It's because they were really good together when they were in 2024.
They were in 24? What are you talking about?
No, whatchamacallit?
Blade Runner.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that
together.
connection.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. That's a great call, though.
That's why I haven't seen that movie, but I just knew they were both in it.
Right. But if he was young Indy and old Indy, they wouldn't be intersecting.
I know, but that'd be cool, though,
to see them in
that
the same
aspect.
movie.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Gosling is a really underrated comedic actor. Yeah. That dude is legit funny. Do you ever see The New Guys, I think is the name of that movie? It's with him and Russell Crowe, and they're cops in the 70s.
Ooh.
Trying to solve like a murder, and they're not good cops.
I didn't see it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it, but I never.
Mike,
saw
it's hilarious.
Redbox
it. Find it on some streaming service. It's really good.
What's the movie with Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway in it? And he's like the son of.
This is Gosling is the son.
Yeah, Gosling's the son of I think Anne Hathaway's character or something. I can't remember.
Get Smart. Okay.
No, it's not Get Smart.
No.
But it's like a rom.
He's like, no, yeah.
It's a rom-com. But it's funny, it's quirky, and it gets him out of his element. Like
Okay.
he's like a really quirky guy in general, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always picked Ryan Gosling to do like whatever character he wanted.
Sure,
to
I
do.
love him. He's excellent.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
could be anything he wanted to be.
Yeah.
He could be Flash. I really wanted him to be Flash.
I could see that.
He could be.
I think he's too big for Flash.
He could be
but
Green Arrow.
yeah, he could do
He
that.
could be a Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
He could be Guy Gardner.
No.
Probably not as crass.
No.
Well, I mean, like, did you? What was the new space movie with him being Buzz Aldrin? Oh, what was that movie?
Oh, First Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he took over like a really dramatic mantle role.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. He could be Orion.
Okay. Ooh, that's a
yeah.
good call.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So-
And you would need to get somebody like that too to make a new Gods movie.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
yeah,
no, that's a perfect recast.
right.
I
And
could see him being Indiana Jones too. I could see him
Yeah.
more being Indy than I could Chris Pratt.
really.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I feel like Chris is a little bit stockier built.
Yeah.
And like Harrison Ford when he was younger, he was slim and trim.
True.
And Gosling kind of fits that same mold. Just imagine Gosling
That's
in
fair.
a hat.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can. Yeah, you're right. You can easily see it.
One of our listeners out there, make us a sketch. If
Oh,
you're
it's
an
gotta
artist,
be. Yeah.
please give Ryan Gosling
or
with
if you're
the,
good at
Ryan Gosling in the
at
Indy hat.
Photoshop,
In
yeah.
Photoshop, yeah, with the whip in his hand.
sure, and tweet us at GRC Podcast.
And we will blast that all over the social
all over the
media.
place. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit.
So yeah, do you have any? You want to add anything to those, or did you say you had a?
I had a
You were about to like, yeah, okay, all right, go ahead, be negative.
So one way
Uh-huh.
we could just do this is just to kill it completely.
Yes.
Kill the franchise.
Right.
Don't even bring it back
Nothing
up
is
again.
always an option, and usually the easiest.
Yes, it really is. And so, with so much money making right now that Disney's doing, especially after acquiring 20th Century Fox Pictures, they have all the Marvel stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
All the Marvel stuff. They literally have the license to print money in the United States now. So
yeah, pretty much.
why would you focus on anything else except for that? The fact that they have Toy Story 4 coming out like just blows my mind. Like that franchise was over at 3. There's no need to push it on to 4.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting success with multiple movies from the MCU, which I think is just going to kind of feed back into everything. Like Frozen 2, I'm kind of excited about, but they're never, it's okay if you make a Frozen 2. They didn't have to make a Frozen 2.
Right.
Frozen was amazing. The first movie was amazing. You don't have to do 2.
Right.
But I know what you're building on. You're trying to get an audience in. You're trying to get all this stuff in. But
Sure, but original Frozen will still be just as good.
oh no,
Like,
no doubt.
Lion King 2 sucks. Regular Lion King is still
Yeah,
awesome.
if you like those movies, but
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying like
So yeah, you could just not do it.
Yeah, you just
but-
not do it and
yeah.
just leave it be and let it be iconic for that. Because I mean,
But I think just like out of the way the idea was birthed, that it's so like kind of tied to the idea of Bond, and these characters are set up to where you just, especially in Indiana Jones, you just plug in a mythical object
I know, but
like Spear of Destiny,
so if you're gonna
Throne of Atlantis.
if you're gonna just like continually doing this, you're gonna have to keep going in that time period.
yeah,
At some point, you're gonna have to bring it up to date. Like I just feel like you have to bring Indiana Jones into like
a modern
modern-esque, and then that's when it
so
kind
is
of
it
gets
like
a
his
little
grandson, I guess.
yeah. But then it kind of gets like into this is like just Mission Impossible. Is this James Bond?
I would
It's
say
just
it's
like
the librarian.
and so that
you know that
doesn't- it
movie with
just
Noah
doesn't-
Wiley. That's basically
yeah. But then it's just like
right, or National Treasure.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they did a really like if you had a model for making next indie film, you could take National Treasure and just kind of
Oh, I hope not.
not the actors and stuff like that,
Right.
but I'm just saying like the way that it was done, how
Yeah.
it had clues and stuff like that. To me, that was more like watching that and then going back and watching Indiana Jones movies. Now, modern day time, if they did it like that and then
Mhm.
had Indy in it, then maybe that's something you could build upon later on. I still feel like that there should be another National Treasure movie.
I think one's enough.
There's 2, buddy.
I'm aware, and one's enough.
Oh my god. But yeah, man, just let it ride off in the sunset. Let Harrison Ford be that character
take it off to
forever.
I'm not okay with that, but
I know, but I'm just
Right.
saying, like,
Sure.
I can understand why you're not okay with it.
Right.
But then there's an aspect of like, we really need to blow the dust off of this when
Mhm.
we've got 50,000 other projects. We're about to take off Star Wars like no one else's business.
Yeah, well, we're balls deep in it. We're about to be done with Episode 9. Like, they gotta find new areas to tap into, right?
Well,
Like,
they've got the
yeah, you can do the solos, like the
one-shots.
individual stories.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, they're doing
And
that, but
that's that live action show they're doing.
yeah, where it's set on.
Isn't it between 3 and 4?
Yeah, it's supposed
It's
to be
about the
before.
bounty hunters, right? It's
Supposed to
about,
be
is it Boba Fett?
before. It's about what's that planet's name? Are you kidding me? It's where all it's where Boba Fett came from. It's where
It starts with a C.
oh gosh, man, it's really big in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
You know, Obi-Wan goes there. He ends up falling in love with the princess. There's a coup, and then Darth Maul comes back. See, I feel like after the Solo movie, they could do something like that.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's Mandalorian.
It starts with a
Yeah.
C.
Well, that's
No,
the
it
name of the
doesn't.
show. It's called The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
So it takes place on Mandalore, and
Mhm.
it follows the Mandalorians and their war. Like, if you want to put an aspect on it, it's like the Kree. They
Sure.
think that they're
Okay.
doing something righteous, but they're really not.
Right.
So that's big, but I mean, like, that is. I don't think it's exploded just quite yet. I
Mhm.
feel like it's about to once you get to the last movie in the trilogy, because then they're going to make another trilogy. Then they're going
Do
to
you
have all
think
this
so?
other stuff. I would think so.
I think they'll wait a while.
I mean, at
'Cause
this
there's
point
already
now,
a bit of Star Wars fatigue. You remember when, like, going to see a Star Wars movie in the theater was like something special, and then it was every year? It's a bit like comic book movies now. Like, is there oversaturation to it?
probably not though. If you polled the community, you would probably
But
see
Star
there's not.
Wars is one property where, like, you know, an Ant-Man movie is totally different than, like, a Captain America
Yeah,
movie
that's
or
why
something.
you have these one shots in between. Like it kind of
Right.
feeds it to you.
But it's all still Star Wars.
I know, and people love Star Wars.
They do.
I mean, we had a whole like
I just don't see them jumping, like, Episode 9 comes out and them immediately being like, all right, we're gearing up for 10, 11, and 12. And
it doesn't even necessarily have to be 10, 11, and 12. It could be something before even Episode 1,
Episode 0,
It could
Star
be-
Wars.
or you could just be like
Intergalactic trade routes.
you could be back in the Knights of the Old Republic. You know,
Right.
you could do that kind of stuff.
Now, I would love a Knights of the Old Republic movie.
And
I
that's-
don't think it'll ever happen.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you have so much source material with Star Wars,
Mhm.
but not necessarily with Indiana Jones. Just
I would argue
in that franchise,
I
just end
completely disagree.
because
Any mythological, like, you can go into any mythology. You could do Greek, Roman, you could do Egyptian.
But why
you
would
could
you
do
need to do that?
Celtic.
Why would you need to do that when Star Wars can do that? Like,
Why? What do you
I'm going to
mean?
go look for a holocron, a Sith holocron. I'm going to get all the information from the Sith. I'm going
Right,
to go
but
to the
they're
Jedi
not,
Temple.
I mean, they're not the same types of movies, though.
It's an adventure, kind of.
No, Star Wars to me is a fantasy movie that's in space. It's sword and sorcery, but wrapped around.
But it's
a
adventure.
Sci-fi,
But it's an adventure.
Yeah, it's an adventure, but it's
Yeah.
not like a get in the dirt, swinging through jungles type adventure.
I mean, some of it is.
I'll agree with that, some of it, but like they're not really usually like a whole episode isn't usually built around them trying to find something. Force Awakens is a little different because they're trying to find Luke.
I mean, what's the episode where he goes to Dagobah? Is that 7?
That's
no,
8.
8.
No,
I mean-
I'm sorry. It's episode 5, Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah, he's trying to find his master there, but that's not what the movie's about.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that it's like Star Wars is an adventure.
Yes.
Like, you're going on a ride,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have all that stuff ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
just keep plugging away at that. There's no need to just hollow up this dead carcass.
But you
and just
can't
put it
you
out
can't
there.
have like Star Wars and the search for the Spear of Destiny. So like I don't get where you're.
You can have Star Wars like a one shot, and they're searching for something.
Yes, but it's not going to be any earthly.
It doesn't have to be, dude. That's what I'm
For
saying.
Indiana
like-
Jones does.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like with Star Wars, you don't necessarily need that.
No,
There-
sure. No,
you-
it's actually there's zero chance of that. There's zero chance of it being anything earthly. Because it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far
Yeah,
away.
I know.
So like no Christian.
But I'm just saying,
Judaism.
You don't have to have that though. Like you have this really strong franchise that you can do whatever you want to with it,
Mhm.
whatever you want to with it. You could have some other religion you could even bring up in that, and you don't need to. To me,
that's
doesn't
not Indiana Jones. I don't understand why we're talking about this.
because it's not. Because I feel like it's not feasible for them to just
For
be
Indy?
like, no, not for Indy, just the franchise in general. Like, kill it. It's done. Like, it's dead. Don't bring it back because you have all these other projects that you're doing. Like, you have so much fandom right now around these two different things, and they're now bringing live action Disney movies from like the cartoon era. Like, you get in the Lion King movie, you get Aladdin, you got Cinderella, you got Beauty and the Beast. So they're focused on that. They're focused on Marvel. They're focused on Star Wars. Why bring this back?
You think it would make money? Do you think if they made an Indiana Jones movie, it would make
I feel
money?
like Disney will. Any movie that Disney touches now will make money.
I think that's fair to a point, but I mean, I just don't see why you would buy Lucasfilm for just Star Wars.
Because it's Star Wars.
Star Wars is massive. Don't get me wrong, but like this is in that you have this toy in your toy chest. Why do you not play with it?
Because you have all these other new toys that are making tons and tons of money, and they don't.
I mean,
That's what I told you. I told you let's get shit on it.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so Mike's idea is nothing.
no, my idea is to just let it retire. Let it sit there.
That's
It's never gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's never gonna be bad.
This is basically Ashley's argument, my wife.
I mean,
Right,
I can
but,
see your point.
Yeah, but
I can see your point too
think
because I like the
there's-
movies.
Right.
Like I think there's a place in lore
Yeah.
in the modern century now that you could have Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Even in our time aspect, you don't even have to go back to the 50s or 70s. When you started thinking about being in Vietnam, I was like, oh, what about in Korea? Or what about the
Korea makes a lot of sense. I would rather put it around Korea than Vietnam.
because it's in the 80s. You get all the 80s music, right?
No, Korea's
Korea?
50s.
50s. My bad.
Yeah.
Vietnam was the 80s.
No.
No. 70s.
60s and 70s.
What?
Carter, yeah. I think we were out of Vietnam by like the time Reagan was coming around for sure.
Okay. Well, my apologies then.
No worries.
But even if you wanted to put like Indiana Jones in the Desert Storm, like he had to find
Yeah, he'd be ancient.
but I'm
He'd be
saying
like
you
90.
you would have to put somebody else in there.
Oh,
in that
yeah.
role.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like he goes on an adventure, or he is a soldier, or he's someone that's kind of recording historical
Sure.
artifacts in Palestinian lore or
Right.
Iraqi war, and like he's like, what is this? Finds it, and it leads him to something else, and it's like,
What if it was the Fountain of Youth?
yeah, there we go. See,
Right.
and
Now
then-
that would be an interesting way to still make him young and put
Exactly.
him in a modern time.
Exactly.
And you just like, and he found the Fountain of Youth. And
So
he's-
like at the very end,
it's
of,
kind of Captain America-ish that he's like this
Exactly.
man out of time type
it's
deal.
kind of like what Wonder Woman is now in the DCU.
Yeah. I mean, he would be aware of culture stuff because
Of
he would have
course.
been around the whole time.
Yeah.
But
But like, you get a good shot of like Wonder Woman just being herself. Or,
yeah, fish out of water.
Yeah, and
Like
then,
the ice cream thing with Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, you made this? You should be very proud.
Then we'll sing songs about this.
Okay, I have another one. Another
That's
little
fine.
pitch here.
Yeah.
All right. So, and this one, those other two, I've had like been stewing over those for
Yeah.
years. This one did come to me this actual week when we were like preparing for this. But a animated series of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
And this way, you could get Harrison Ford to voice him if you wanted to, and like, I think that's something Harrison Ford would be interested in because there's no like stunt work for it. You just show up into a sound booth and you deliver these lines. It'd just be you, Harrison Ford, and here's a paycheck. And I think an interesting way to do those would be to model them after the cliffhangers from the 30s and 40s that they're based on.
Okay.
So every cartoon would be like, I would love to do it like they released the 66 Batman show. Do you know how that worked? So the 66 Adam West Batman show came out twice a week. And it was an hour each. And the first one would always end with like Batman and Robin are captured by the villains, and they're in some death trap. It's like certain death. And it's like,
I know
will
next
Batman
time.
and Robin survive? Yeah, same bat time, same bat channel. So they want you to come back and see the next one, right?
Yeah.
And so like I've heard, interviews from people who were live at the time saying that like the next day at like schoolyard, that's what everybody's talking about. It's like, how is Batman and Robin going to get out of this?
Yeah.
in today's time with streaming and everything, it's hard to capture that same like, oh, we all watched the same thing last night on TV, and let's all talk about it. I would try to do something like that with this though, or you put it on Netflix or something, and they're all they're all 2-parters though.
Okay.
So 30 minutes, and the first one always ends with Indy in like a sure, like he's going to die, right?
Yeah.
And then it, the beginning of the second one starts out with him getting out of it, and then a conclusion to whatever quest he's on.
Yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun, and you can get away with certain things in animation that you may not be able to get away with in live action. For example, I think the Crystal Skull aliens would actually look really good animated.
Yeah.
And that's something that didn't really look too well.
Would you want this to
action.
be kind of a comedy though, like Venture Brothers-esque?
No, not that like tongue in cheek.
Okay.
To be honest with you, if I had like my dream creative team, would be the Voltron people. Like, they nail action adventure with some kind of like mythological feel to it. Because the new Voltron series did a great job of that. Of the like, there is a mystical element to the lions as well as like a sci-fi
I haven't seen
element.
it yet.
Oh, it's so good.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yes, and it's done now too. So like, you can watch the entire series.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I think something like that would be really, really good. The only problem with that is it is, and this is so weird to say, but it is Disney, and Disney's like TV animation sometimes is not the best.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
They started out so strong.
Right, yeah, by like practically inventing like a field.
Yeah.
Another, and this was my kind of throwaway one. I think a radio play would be kind of interesting,
or a podcast.
You would release it as a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a radio, like a 30s or 40s radio play, and like you can hear it right now with like the music just starting, and then like Indy telling him about his adventure. Yeah. You can do the crack of the whip sounds and everything, the sound effects, and you can set it in whatever time, and just Harrison Ford's voice anyways. So like, you don't have to make him look young or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that could be. You could do some stuff, and then you could do that so cheap.
Yeah, and you could even do it cheesed up like, 1940s, 1950s.
Right.
Indy's caught in a pit of snakes. How do we get him out today?
Yeah. Okay. You have anything else?
Oh man, that's great.
That's it.
Yeah, just kill the franchise, but it's okay. Whatever you want.
Oh yeah, I just think that's such a shame.
It is. Like, I mean, it's almost an American Bond. I mean,
yes. Is the closest thing, but besides maybe like Mission Impossible.
But even that's like.
Yeah, even sometimes I feel like Mission Impossible is more serialized than people give it. That you have kind of seen the last one or something so it is better if you see.
Oh yeah, because you pick up on more stuff.
Yeah,
but you
connections.
You can't have another Ethan Hunt. Like, no, you just can't. So like when Tom Cruise is done, those
movies should
be done.
That's like the what's the Tom Clancy character? The ton different actor, Jack Ryan.
Oh
Jack Ryan. Yeah, they keep recasting. That's probably the closest to an American Bond.
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
But that means they haven't gotten a lot of rep. I should say
right.
Jack
they made
Ryan,
that
Shadow
movie
Recruit right now.
Right.
With Krasinski.
No, that's not Shadow Recruit. Shadow Recruit's the one from that was Chris. Who's one of the Chris's? I get Chris. Yes, there we go.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right. One of the Chris's. I get them all confused. But yeah, the new one I've heard with Jim from The Office is really good.
Yeah, and that was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. He was up for Captain America.
I did know that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he didn't actually get it, though.
I could see it, but Chris Evans.
It's iconic.
Man, he's so good. He's so good. He made me like the character. Okay, well, if listeners, if y'all have any ideas out there on what to do with Indiana Jones, if it should just be put out to the pasture, taken behind the chemical shed and shot.
Old Yeller. Or look at the flowers if you're a Walking Dead fan.
There we go. Okay, I was going to be for Vendetta.
Oh.
I'd rather die behind the chemical shed.
Oh. Well, I was going Old Yeller.
There we go.
Look at the flowers.
Yeah, so if you agree with Mike, that should be, or really, that wasn't your main pitch.
No, that wasn't my main. But I mean, that's like, I wouldn't even, no, it's not my main pitch.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's a part of me that wants it to happen again.
Such like they just shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I feel like an old crusty person when I
Right.
say that.
Yeah, you
But-
should. It's like not making another Batman movie or like another
No,
Superman
see,
movie
that's the thing
because
that-
we've done it.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay, there's
No.
the nerve.
That's not what I'm saying
Struck
at
it.
all. Just you have just so much like stuff you're already doing. Why would you pick this back up? This old thing that's been laying here.
Sure, but it makes money.
But you have everything else that makes money.
All right. So let us know what you think. Either tweet us at GRC Podcast or on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/grassrootscomics. Be sure to join us next week where we are talking about the Shazam movie.
If you haven't seen it, it's really good.
So, yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow. I'm excited about it. So, Mike and I are going to talk about it, and then we are actually going to get a kid's perspective of Shazam. Yeah, we're going to talk to my 8-year-old. We're going to get... he's not going to be down here with us. I'm going to bring it just him and me one time. We'll kind of record our own little thing, and I'll insert it into the podcast.
So I'm going to call him V Money from now on.
V Money?
Yeah.
He'll love that.
Okay.
He will like that way too much. Yeah.
And he just have to go like this.
I'll be like, Valen, it's V Money. V Money, will you please pick up the toys?
Thank you.
There we go. That sounds just like him, actually. All right. Let us know what you think on our social medias. And I've been your host, Carter Hutchison.
I'm your co-host, Mike Thomas.
And we'll see you next week, kiddos.
This has been a Grassroots Comics production. Da-da-da! So what's your story?
Well, some kind of silly cartoon.
You got a problem with cartoons?